In this picture, we can see different people doing different things. In the first picture, we see an artist uses tools like a brush and paint to paint the picture. In the second, a hairdresser has a scissor and the required tool. In the third, a photographer has a camera. In the next picture, a gardener has a spade and a pot. And in the last picture, we can see a fisherman having a basket of fish and a fish in his hand. Students, each profession has his or her important job to do. Here we realize that every given work that a person does, he can do it at his or her own best if it is in his own field of work. But if we tell a person who is not capable of doing a work that belongs to another profession, he or she will not able to do it as good as they can do it in his or her own field of work. Today, we are going to see a similar type of an incident that takes place in this lesson and how a person tries to bring about a change. Today, we will learn the lesson Clever Tenali Raman. Click the link given on this page to view the story Artist turned Chief Minister. Listen attentively as the teacher reads the lesson. Lesson 3 Clever Tenali Raman. Raja Varma was the most famous artist in Krishnadevaraya's court. The king loved his paintings. He was so pleased with Raja Varma that he wanted to reward him. One day, the king suddenly said to him, "Ask for anything and it will be yours." The gentle and shy artist did not know what to say. He did not want anything. He only wished to be left alone to carry on with his painting. He thought hard, but before he could reply, the king snapped his fingers and said, "I know what to give you. You will be my chief minister from today." This shocked Raja Varma. He did not want to accept the offer, but he thought that it would be rude to say no. So he had to accept the post. As chief minister, Raja Varma tried his best to fulfill his new duties, but his various plans and actions only led to confusion every way. Raja Varma was after all only a painter. He had never handled matters of the court. He was an intelligent man who realized that he was doing things the wrong way, but he did not know how to solve this problem. The king, however, continued to support him. The people were angry, but they did not want to say anything that would upset their king. Finally, the town elders decided to seek help from the king's jester, Tenali Raman. Raman had a clever idea. He invited the king and his ministers for lunch to his house. He then went to the town's best known carpenter and asked him to prepare a grand feast for his guest. On the day of the feast, the food was served in beautiful plates, and the guests started eating greedily. But in a few seconds, the king began to gasp and called out for water. Soon there were similar cries all around the table. Raman, this food is horrible, shouted the king. It's too spicy, too salty, and really undercooked. Who has made it? Is this your idea of a feast? Do you want us all to die? Raman waited for the king to calm down. Then, with folded hands, he said, Forgive me, sir. Let me introduce you to the cook. A worried looking carpenter now came forward. This is the best carpenter in Vijayanagar. His work is brilliant. I gave him the good job of cooking today. The king glared at him and spoke. Are you crazy, Raman? He may be an excellent carpenter, but does that mean he is a good cook? Raman replied softly, But, sir, if an artist can be the chief minister, why can't a carpenter be a cook? The king now began to realize his mistake. Shaking his head slowly, he said, You are right, Raman. The fault is mine. I understand what you are trying to tell me. The very next day, the king sent Raja Varma back to his old job. The king felt embarrassed, but Raja Varma was very happy. He later thanked Tenali Raman, who just chuckled wisely. Characters of the lesson: King Krishnadevaraya, artist Raja Varma, King's jester Tenali Raman, ministers, town elders, carpenter. Raja Varma was an artist in Krishna Devaraya's court. The king loved his paintings and he wanted to reward him. But Raja Varma was very shy. He did not want any reward from the king. Raja Varma did not ask for any reward. So the king snapped his fingers. Students, snapped means made a sudden sharp noise with his fingers. When the king snapped his fingers, he told Raja Varma that he will make him his chief minister. Raja Varma was not very happy with the post, but he was very polite. He did not want to be rude to the king, so he accepted the post. He was very sad because he knew that he would not be able to fulfill the duties of being a chief minister. And he was also not able to handle the matters of the court. There was chaos everywhere around in the kingdom, and Raja Varma was not at all happy of what was happening around. But he couldn't hurt the king, and he decided to do his duty as the king decided to make him the chief minister. The people were not very happy, but they did not want to say anything that would upset the king. The two town elders decided to call and take help from the king's jester, Tenali Raman. Tenali Raman was a very intelligent person. He knew how to solve the problem in a very friendly manner. So Tenali Raman decided to invite the king and his ministers for feast to his house. And also Tenali Raman thought of telling the carpenter to cook food for the feast. It was the day of the feast, and the king and the ministers arrived at Tenali Raman's house. Tenali Raman served the food to the king and the ministers. As the king began to eat the food, the king began to gasp. Gasp means to breathe quickly with an open mouth because of pain. Soon the ministers had the same problem. The king was very angry. He told Tenali Raman, "The food is so horrible. It is spicy and undercooked." Students, undercooked means food that has not been cooked long enough and is not ready to be eaten. Raman was quiet. He did not reply to what the king said. He waited calm for some time. Raman told the king that the town's best carpenter has cooked the food for today, as his job is very brilliant. The king glared at Tenali Raman. Students, glared means looked angrily and asked Tenali Raman, "Are you crazy, Raman? He's the best carpenter, but he can't be a cook." So Raman replied, "If an artist can be a chief minister, why can't a carpenter be a cook?" The king realized his mistake and he told Raja Varma to go back to his old post as he was embarrassed. Raja Varma was very happy. He thanked Tenali Raman and Tenali Raman chuckled wisely. Students, chuckle means laughed softly. Read the lesson twice. Write the difficult words once in the rough notebook. Complete the drawing and coloring in the English classwork notebook. And students, please complete the notes in the English classwork notebook and write with a blue pen.